Hi everybody. Don't mind me, I'm across the room today. So today we have a PlayStation 5, the Slim model. Brand new released Slim model for this holiday season, I guess, is they released it. It's not much slimmer. It's not much smaller, it's not much slimmer, it is a little different. But my customer here, he dropped it with it connected to everything. So, of course, the first thing that gets destroyed is your HDMI port. Almost always. These things, the PlayStation, all the consoles, the HDMI port is a very sensitive spot. I'm changing a lot of them on a lot of different consoles. But the PlayStation 5 in particular, this is really easy to knock over. And like if you have this anywhere where you can bump into it, you know, you turn holding something and bump into it, knock it over, you're going to wind up breaking your HDMI port. But I can change them, and any console, doesn't matter. I have pretty much all of them in stock here for the Xboxes and PlayStations, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. So let's get into it. This is a little bit different than the original. It's 4 side pieces instead of just 2. I guess they made it so that you just take off the top if you want to clean out the fan, which you should be doing every once in a while. And it all comes apart a little bit different. So instead of sliding up and down like the old one did, where you would pull off the little nodules and then slide it down, this one slides into the back. So I'm looking at the HDMI port here, and there's some fins that fit into the back and then just clips in. So you just pull it from the front and then pull it towards the front. It comes right off. So I'll do that to both sides. That's the top pieces. You see we expose the fan right away, both sides of the fan. So it's pretty easy to clean. And then we'll do that to the bottom here too. Okay, there we go. Let me readjust the camera. So this is live, completely live. You're going to see a bunch of behind the scenes, I guess, because, yeah, moving this around. You will get an edited version of this too, where all those cuts will be gone. So here we have the PlayStation 5 out on the desk. This is different. I don't know if it's better for repairability. If this CD-ROM drive or if this Blu-ray drive is not software paired to the machine, then this is wonderful. You just lift up from the back of it, and there is your CD drive. That easy to remove it and replace it. As long as this isn't paired to this machine, that will be spectacular for servicing. So to open this up, I'm going to start with the simplest thing, just the cover for the M.2 slot. So you can add storage to your PlayStation by adding an M.2 drive into here, and it'll take any size. It has screw holes to take any size, which that's a nice design feature. Then we'll move on to taking out the fan. I have my LTT store screwdriver, ratcheting screwdriver for this. Something that I find funny here, this is a brand new design, and the screws are exactly in the same places. You have the short one into plastic, the 2 medium ones that are machine screws into metal, and then the long one into plastic. It's the exact same that's been on all the PlayStations. They didn't change that at all. And we pull up this little sticker here to unplug the electrical connector, and now we get the fan out. Now, the next one I usually go for, it's usually on this side, is the security screw, or the tamper evidence screw. I just start from there, and I work my way around the machine. And I put them on my board here, just in the order that I'm taking them out. So then it's easy to put them back. You don't misthread anything. Screws are relatively in the same place as the old one. The design definitely looks a little different. There's a lot of different things about it. It's pretty much the same screws in the same space. This screw here is, on some models, is underneath all the plastic and just holding in the board. But now it's exposed out here. And there's the inside. Looks extremely similar to the last 2 PlayStations. Was it the C, I think they're up to? Revision C? This is very close to Revision C. So next thing, I'll pop off these antenna connectors. And usually there's a couple of other wires around here. I don't see any wires on this model. There is this, I need to expand that window so I can see what you're seeing. Hey, from Jamaica, awesome. My old boss from the automotive shop I worked at is Jamaican, from Jamaica, born and raised in Jamaica. With the stereotypical name Winston from Jamaica. Great guy. Full screen projector there. Now I could actually see what you're seeing, and that's not in great focus. Let me see if I could fix that up. That's a little better. So I changed my f-stop up a little bit. F13 now, so now more is in focus. Let me get this out of the way a little bit. All right. Chat. Let me see if I can get chat on my phone so I can talk to you guys. Don't mind me just getting chat on my phone. Don't flip out on me in the comments that, oh my god, I use my phone while streaming. Where's me? View channel. There we are. Yeah. I got that. Pause that, please. Awesome. Live chat. And I will connect to there. How is this already broken? Fall damage. Accidental fall damage. So now, just like any other PlayStation, we have a butt-ton of screws all around on this this metal plate. We're just going to go around and take them all off. I use one of these little dosage cups. I put a magnet underneath it. Is that within view? That is not within view. There you go. And that is just going to get filled up with all of these screws. So one thing that I do like to do, which I already have one of, is take a picture of it before I take out any screws. So if you see here, I have one of the old PlayStation, and I have little red circles around the holes that are supposed to remain free. Because even after doing these so many times, I still have the tendency of I might put a screw in that hole, and the screw does not belong in that hole. So I make up these little cheat sheets for stuff that I'm going to see a lot. Or even if I don't see it a lot, the first one I see, I have a picture on my phone of what this looks like and where all the screws are right now before I take out anything. So that when I put it back together, I don't put screws where they're not supposed to be, because the plastic case is going to screw into some of these holes. All these holes that are empty right now are the holes that the plastic case screws go through. So you need to keep track of that. So in a edited version, this will be sped up. I won't lose anything in an edited version. If I do an edit, I'm not going to delete any of the content, but stuff like this, removing all these screws, will be sped up to 400 times speed or 600 times speed. So most of these screws are all the same. You just pay attention as you're taking them out. If any of them are different, make a note of it, take a picture of it, something. Oh, we got one different right here. That's one of the ones going into plastic right there in the corner of this little extra piece here. So this little extra piece, they instituted this in the last revision, the C revision of the regular PlayStation 5. I'm glad to see it here too. This allows you to remove this connector without removing this entire plate. Before, you had to take this whole plate off just to get to this connector to service the front USB ports and stuff. So to take this off, you push down on the little metal bar in the back, and we'll just push on this grounding pad is a good spot to just push on it, and it takes the ribbon right out of there. So it's good that they put that into this one. That was the light reflecting off of this aluminum a lot. What if I just turn that light off? The aluminum is just so bright. It's hard to film something so shiny. But this will be out of the way in a second. Okay, that's all the screws. Before you try prying it off, make sure you got all the screws. It's not good to bend up these things. This is part of the heat sink. So the antenna wires, I don't like pulling them off of the aluminum piece, so I just leave them in place. And we'll just place this off to the side. So find a corner where you could lift on, and it's going to be a little adhered because of all of the little dots of thermal putty. So all these little dots are all thermal putty on all of the chips here. And we'll just place this off to the side. Let's see, yeah. The antenna wires are in a different way. I could usually place it over here, right where the rest of the stack is, but the antenna wires are exactly opposite now. Okay, next thing is the heatsink. They changed the screws on this. These used to be Phillips head screws. They are now regular non-tamper-proof T8. So yes, that's what's in this LTT ratcheting screwdriver, is the tamper-proof T8 bit. That's what the rest of the screws are. Be real careful when you're taking this out. Don't drop your screwdriver anywhere on the board. Now you have the board exposed. Now you have to start being careful. Don't drop anything on the board. Don't scrape anything across the board. That's the heatsink spring. Now we need to get the spring, the board protector. This is just a standoff that the spring can sit on. If I just take a black stick to get underneath it, it comes right out. Now, something that they started doing, something that they started doing with the C revision, there's a couple screws now that hold the board to the bottom heatsink, heat spreader, protector, whatever this they want to call this thing. So we have 2 more screws to take out here. I think it's only ever been 2. I don't think they've done more than that. And now we can pull the board out. So find a corner. Again, the whole thing has dots of thermal putty, so it's going to be difficult to come out. But then you see these 2 lugs. I don't know if you can see them. This is the power supply connector. So these are 2 blades of metal that go all the way through into the power supply. So this corner right here with this alignment stick and the connector is going to be difficult to come out. So it helps sometimes if you get a black stick under here. You don't want to slide it under too much because you don't want to knock anything off the board. And just use that to disconnect the power connector. And now the board will lift off nice and easy. There we go, we got the board out. So yeah, you can see that there's nothing around the power connector to worry about knocking off. Don't go in over here or anything like that, but all around the power connector, there's nothing on the board. So you can stick something, some plastic underneath there to help lift up to get this disconnected. The thermal paste looks really nice on this. I haven't seen one so new. And that crooked HDMI port. So let's take this over to the soldering desk and get this HDMI port changed. Okay, so here's the board. There's our crooked HDMI port. Take a look closer. Yeah, that's not healthy. I hope none of those, no, it doesn't look like any of the pads lifted up. All the pins got ripped off the pads. From here, it looks like all the pads have remained on the board. Well, we'll see as soon as we get this off. So there are a couple, the 2 ones that are hard to solder, the ground and power, these 2 here, they're still fully connected. This one's kind of half connected, but these 2 are still fully connected. So what you want to do, if you have one that's just wrecked up and it's not ripped off like this, the first thing you do is get some flux and some new solder on these pins. So we're going to get a little bit of flux. We got to get behind that, that capacitor there, and we want to just get some leaded solder, some 60-40 solder on those 2 pins that are still connected. This will help them melt better, melt faster, because we're going to be heating from the other side of the board on this machine. Other machines, like the Xbox, I heat from this side of the board. But this one, works just fine from the other side of the board. Either or, really. Okay, let's go to the bottom. I'll remove this ground pad. If it stays sticky enough, I'll put it on the, yeah, it'll stay sticky enough. That'll go on the new one as it goes in. Yes, this is in a little different position. You have to get used to this now. Oh yeah, that'll buff out. Just walk it off. Walk it off, PS5. Come on. So again, I'm going to add some leaded solder, some 6040 leaded solder. And as I heat this, this will mix in with the lead-free solder. It'll lower its melting temperature. It doesn't mix too far. It stays towards the top, but it helps with heat conduction, because this will melt pretty quickly, and then it'll help just conduct heat down into the lead-free solder. Okay, now we go for hot air. So before I start doing this, I noticed that the board is, the HDMI port is touching the solder mat here. So I'm going to have to find something to hold this up, hold the board up in this corner. I need something that's not going to get destroyed by heat. Okay, a giant heatsink from a TV I was working on, that works. So yeah, now I have a space underneath here, so it has room to fall out. So all these through holes here, I don't know if this is on purpose or anything for this purpose, but all these through holes here on the ground plane help to conduct heat from this side of the board to the other side of the board. Now, I don't know if a Sony engineer thought about repair of this and you know, how to get this off with hot air and everything, but this works out great to get hot air to the other side of the board to heat up the pins, the row of pins on there. You can see that the leaded solder that I put is already melting. That's just going to help conduct heat down into the lead-free solder. Don't force it. Whatever you do, don't force it off. Let it fall off. You can tap on it, touch it a little bit, but just keep heating all around the area until it just falls off. It takes a lot of heat to work on these boards. That's why this isn't a home gamer repair. You need a decent hot air station. Which something like the Atten that Lewis at Rossman Group sells is more than adequate to do something like this. But the little $50 ones, not good enough. There we go, we're coming off. There you go. There's those mangled pins. Now, while it's still hot, while your hot air is still hot, we're going to get the solder out of the pinholes, the through holes, with hot air and a solder sucker. You don't want to let it cool off and have to do this all over again. So you just do this right now while everything's still hot. And whatever you do, do not just reuse the solder that was in there. Always pull out all this solder and put in new. Don't try to reuse the solder. Okay, now we'll go to the other side. We'll clean up these pins, make sure everything is still good on here. Absolutely amazing. Nothing ripped off the board. Spectacular. So we're going to add a little bit of flux. We're going to add some leaded solder to this, just to make it easier to wick away. And we'll take some goot wick. Very lightly. You don't want to scrape the board. Very lightly. Done. All right. Nice clean board. Now we put our new HDMI port in place. And then we're just going to tack it in place in each corner here. Get some solder in there. I'm moving it way out of place, but now that I have some solder in there, I'll hold it. There you go. And we don't want it all the way on the back of the landing pads. You want a little bit of the pad exposed up front here. You don't want too much, and you don't want the pins overlapping the solder mask or anything like that, because you want to be able to get your soldering iron to touch the pad as well. So we leave a little bit of gap on there, because if we push it all the way back, you can overlap the pad. You can go all the way back, and you don't want it all the way forward. You don't want so much pad showing. Let's get a little bit of flux in this corner. And all the while you're doing this, you need to make sure you're not brushing your hand across the CPU and picking up that liquid metal. Do not ever let liquid metal touch any of your soldering gear. It will completely destroy the plating on your soldering equipment. I usually refuse to work on anything that has liquid metal on it. If you put liquid metal on your MacBook, I am not servicing it. And now we go to the back. So the pins that are to the back are anchored in a little bit. So then we'll start with the front pins, one side. We'll get a little bit of flux on this. Then we got a nice dome of solder across the top. Nice dome of solder across the top. Now you're not done. I've run across this a couple times from other shops. You're not done at this point. I don't care what soldering iron you have, you're not going to heat that all the way through to solder that pin on. We have to hot air this back on now. So you see these big Hershey Kiss points of solder. We're going to flatten them out, and then you keep the hot air on it for a little bit longer, and you're going to see it go beyond flattened out. The solder's going to sink down into the hole. Then you know everything's soldered. You don't ever stop at this point with just the solder on top. Keep heating, and you see it plop right down into that hole. And you should start seeing a little bit of the stake that comes through, the through hole. Make sure it's cool. Now we'll go over to the other side. And usually I do a little bit, while it's still hot, do a little bit on each side while holding the HDMI port in place. A little bit like that. A little bit like that, done. Now while it's still hot, this is kind of important. While it's still hot, get some flux on here. And at least those two pins, you can't be interrupted while doing this. At least those two pins, while the whole board is still hot, you gotta solder them. Because these are very difficult to get solder on and get it placed. So while the board is hot, there you go. Get in there, and there we go. Take care of a bridge. And just the whole connector is easier while it's hot. So it's better off if you just, while everything is hot right now, quick run across all these pins and solder it. So I'm sorry to people calling my business. If I'm in the middle of this right now, I may not answer your call. Need more solder. And there you go. That is a changed HDMI port. So now we'll do a bunch of Q-tipping. Northridge Fix has a more powerful sucker. Oh, I have a more powerful sucker, but it's in storage right now. I have a paste soldering equipment desoldering pump. It's a soldering iron that has the solder sucker right up the middle of the iron. I haven't had a real need to get it out of storage. It's made for through hole, really. We could probably take the solder out of this while it's all still connected and the port's in place and everything. It might be easier. I should try it one time. So the flux I use is Amtech NC, what is it, 559. The NC is for no clean. So you don't have to clean this flux off. It's not going to corrode anything. You don't have to worry about the copper turning green and falling apart. But you still clean your work. Doesn't matter if you're using a no clean flux. You still clean your work. You don't leave flux all over the place for the next technician to stick their finger in. You just don't have to worry about getting from underneath the connector. It's not going to corrode anything. Okay, and then we'll put the little grounding pad back on the back of that. Stick it down. Okay, back to the bench for reassembly. Now let me go turn off the fume extractor. We don't need that noise right now. Okay, the next thing that I usually do is there's almost always a dry spot on the heatsink and the CPU of liquid metal. And I'll take a Q-tip that I have soaking in liquid metal and just brush it up and everything. But that not a problem with this, it's too new. But I will take a black stick that's covered in liquid metal and just move this drop of liquid metal from one side to the other. Just smooth all of this out. So the only thing I like about liquid metal is that when you open a device, you don't have to then change it. You can just redistribute it, clean it up if you need to. I'm really hoping Tim's thermal paste from TCRS Circuits gets rated well enough to replace liquid metal on the PlayStations. That would be amazing. He's working towards that, formulating something that's good enough to replace liquid metal. Okay, just take care with the alignment pin and the power connector as you put it back together. And then we'll start reassembly. Just exact opposite. We'll start with the 2 screws that hold this board in place. These are nice and easy. They have little arrows on the board showing you which holes they went to. Oh, wait, the heatsink. Put the pad back, put the spring back on. We'll connect the one connector. This is interesting. This is the only connector. There's no power button connector and light connector and stuff like that. They put everything on the one board. So the power button, the eject button, the USB ports, and the vanity light around it is all through the one connector. I like that. That's a simplified design. They didn't change much in here at all. They simplified the design a little bit, which is wonderful. I love it. Just refine it. You don't need to change everything. Make sure that goes down centered. And now we just start with all the screws. Now we got a little pile of screws. I can put this back here so I don't forget that. Anything else? Nope. Okay, I'll start with the one weird screw, just because I remember that and know where it goes. Okay, now we just start working our way around, putting all the screws back. I can't keep my phone awake anymore. I'm not allowed to have I'm not allowed to have developer options on anymore. I could set it to, what, 10 minutes is the maximum? I need to do that. Okay, I just tried to put a screw in a hole that it doesn't belong, so I might have to open the picture that I took of what's empty on this. Open up that picture. You don't want to over tighten any of this stuff. They were relatively loose feeling when you get to them. You don't need to wrench these things down. There's a circuit board between them. You don't want to crush anything in the circuit board. But you do want all of those thermal dots to make contact again. Usually my next step from here is to take this outside and blow it out with the air compressor. There is absolutely zero need to do that with this. This is way too new. So I'm just following, I'm zoomed in on my picture and I'm just following the area along as I go. It doesn't seem like there's many screw holes that I'm tempted to put a screw in that it doesn't belong in. There's a couple holes, but they're long, deep holes that if I try to put a screw in, it doesn't want to go in. And then there's the one for the fan here. Okay, this is the only one. Up in this top corner here, right by the Wi-Fi antenna. That's the one for the fan. That's the machine screw for the fan. The other machine screw for the fan is right there, and it doesn't look like I want to put a screw in there because it's only in one piece of sheet metal. It's not holding anything down, so I don't even want to put a screw there. This is the only one that I would want to put a screw there. Actually, I think that they helped you with this. There's a little stamp. I don't know if that comes across on camera at all. There's a little stamp around every single one of the screw holes that are empty that make it look like a plus sign. So every screw hole that has a plus sign around it, you're not putting a screw in when you can see this. Here, 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 you don't even want to put one in because it's only in a piece of sheet metal, so that's you wouldn't even think to put one in there. This one doesn't have screw threads in it, so you wouldn't think to put one in there. But yeah, everything has a little plus sign around it that indicates you do not put a screw there. That's good, I like that. Okay, let's connect the Wi-Fi antenna. Next is the plastic top. There we go. Just put the... So I start it here, went around this way, so then I start the one next to it and go around that way. All the screws are just in a line over here. I mean, it's really hard to mess it up anyway. There's four different screws. There's a really long ones, kind of long ones, then the shorter ones, and then the one that has machine threads and not plastic biting threads. When I screw the plastic screws in, the ones that are biting into plastic, I don't like to make new threads. I like to find the old threads and just thread it down into there, because it's really easy to just screw it in and just create new threads. You only get to do that 3-4 times before it doesn't thread anymore. So I always turn it back a little bit, find the beginning of the threads, and just run it down its original threads. So then I'm not wearing out the hole. Okay, fan next. Go ahead and plug it in while I'm here. Put the sticker back. And like I said at the beginning, the fan screws are the exact same pattern as they've always been. The two machine ones, the really short one, the long one. So that's pretty cool that how different this is, but how the same it is. Last piece is the the M.2 cover. Okay, we'll put the tamper evidence seal back into place, even though it's evident that I tampered with it. Nobody will notice. How will they know? How will they know? Love this design. Awesome. I guess put this on first because this is the only thing that's holding down the CD drive. So there you go. PlayStation 5 Slim HDMI port repair. It looks beautiful in there. It's not crooked anymore. It's not bent up. So yeah, if you have a broken PlayStation, you have anything broken, I can probably fix it. Anything that's fixable, I can fix, but it needs to be fixable. So parts need to be available, and information needs to be available to troubleshoot it. That's the only two things that something needs to be fixable. Thanks for joining me. Who's here? Anybody here? Yeah, it's early in the day. I don't think a lot of people can join for a live stream early in the day. So yeah, I'll edit this down and yeah, turn it into a video. Brand new PlayStation Slim. Next thing is I'll test it. I'm not going to test it on stream because I don't want to accidentally give away my customer's gamer tag. So, thanks for joining me. Have a good day, everybody.